Have you ever been somewhere, you walk in and just feel something? Like the history is right there, almost heavy in the air.
Oh, absolutely. Some places just seem to hold on to the past more strongly than others.
Well, for this deep dive, we're going into one of those places. A location with stories that really echo, maybe even chillingly so. Waverly Hills Sanatorium. It's in Louisville, Kentucky.
Ah, Waverly Hills. Right. A place with a really significant and quite somber history. Built way back, wasn't it? 1910.
Yeah, 1910. It was a sanatorium specifically for tuberculosis. The White Plague, they called it back then.
And it's crucial to remember, the context of the time. Treatments for TB were, well, they were scarce. Very limited options.
Extremely limited. So this place, Waverly, it was meant to be this beacon of hope, But the reality of medicine then, that hope was pretty fragile.
Mm-hmm. And the scale of it was huge. You mentioned over 400 patients at its peak.
Yeah, over 400. Just imagine that. All those people packed in, battling this awful disease, this sheer amount of suffering in one place.
And because treatments were so limited, the things they did try were often pretty radical, kind of experimental.
Right, like thoracoplasty. I read about that.
Exactly, where they'd surgically remove ribs, trying to collapse a diseased lung to let it heal.
Wow. Just invasive doesn't even cover it. Really shows the desperation, doesn't it?
It paints a really grim picture, and with that level of illness, inevitably there was a high death toll.
Which leads to one of Waverly's most infamous features, the death tunnel.
Ah, yes, the tunnel, or sometimes called the body chute, about 500 feet long, running underground from the hospital.
Its purpose was, well, pretty unsettling. It was used to transport bodies away discreetly.
Right. To take the deceased away without the other patient seeing. Imagine the psychological impact, though. Even if you didn't see it, you knew what that tunnel was for.
Yeah, you'd know. Must have created such a heavy atmosphere.
Definitely. So fast forward to today. The sanatorium's closed, abandoned for decades. An imposing building just sitting there.
But it's far from forgotten. It's gained this whole new reputation, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's now widely considered one of the most haunted places in America. Seriously haunted.
Which, when you think about the history, the sheer concentration of intense emotion, trauma, death.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not surprising.
Well, it fits a pattern, Places with intense histories often attract these kinds of stories. It's maybe that energy leaves some kind of imprint.
And the specific claims are pretty consistent, too. Things people report over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Cold spots, definitely. Shadow figures moving in the periphery.
Yeah.
Unexplained noises, voices.
All the classic signs, really. Makes you stop and think, what's actually going on there?
Why do these places capture our imagination so much? Is it about confronting death? Or is there really something lingering?
Well, let's zoom in on one specific area that gets a lot of attention. It really stands out in the stories. Room 502.
Room 502. Yeah, that one has a particularly tragic story attached to it, doesn't it?
The most common version involves a nurse back in 1928.
Right. The story goes she took her own life in that room. And often the detail added is that she was unmarried and pregnant.
Which back then carried just immense stigma. A potentially life-ruining situation. It paints this picture of utter despair.
But like a lot of these legends, especially in charged locations like Waverly, the details get murky.
Exactly. There are other versions. Some accounts suggest maybe it wasn't suicide, maybe something else happened.
And that's key. Without solid records, speculation fills the gaps. And in a place like Waverly, that atmosphere just amplifies everything. Legends grow easily.
And the legends around 502 are powerful. People who go in there consistently report feeling watched, intensely watched.
Yeah, that feeling of being observed is a really common report for that specific room. Some people even say they feel physically ill inside.
Suddenly unwell, yeah.
Yeah.
It's strange how consistent those subjective feelings are, even from people who might not know the full story beforehand.
It's the core of the haunting narrative, those personal experiences. Hard to prove, obviously, but the consistency is notable.
And then there are the sightings, the descriptions of a shadowy figure.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes moving, sometimes just standing there, in the corner, often. It's a really unsettling image people report.
Definitely taps into something primal, that fear of an unseen presence. Someone trapped, maybe. It's a heavy thought.
It is. But to maybe ground this a little, we do have a different kind of account, more recent.
Oh, yeah.
From someone who actually worked there, spent a lot of time inside the building long after it closed, a caretaker in the 1990s.
Okay, a first-hand perspective from someone just being there day to day, even abandoned. That could be interesting.
Right. It offers a different angle than, say, a quick ghost tour. This person describes specific things they couldn't explain.
Like what?
Doors slamming shut, hard, with no drafts, nobody else around, lights flickering in areas where the power was supposedly cut off completely.
Okay, that's weird. Especially the lights. Slamming doors, you might try to rationalize, but lights with no power.
Exactly. Those kinds of anomalies, sounds, sights, things moving, they're textbook paranormal claims. But hearing it from a caretaker adds a certain weight.
Did they mention anything else? Any specific areas?
The third floor. He said the third floor consistently had this feeling. Not just specific incidents, but an overall atmosphere. He called it a weight in the air.
A weight in the air. That's evocative.
Yeah.
Like the air itself was heavy, oppressive.
That's the sense, yeah. A pervasive feeling he couldn't shake. And that that oppressive atmosphere comes up a lot in places linked to mass suffering.
Right. Like an emotional residue, almost. Something left behind that sensitive people pick up on.
Possibly. So when you put it all together, the tragic history as a TB hospital, the sheer number of deaths, those intense, sometimes brutal treatments, the death tunnel, it creates this incredibly powerful backdrop.
Yeah, the history alone is overwhelming. It's easy to see how it became fertile ground for ghost stories.
Absolutely. Waverly is like this physical monument to a really dark time dealing with a terrifying disease. That suffering feels kind of baked into the walls.
And then you layer on the modern reports. The cold spots, the shadows people see, the voices. It really feels like a place where the past hasn't stayed in the past.
It feels very present there, according to the accounts. It's more than just medical history. It's where that tangible history seems to meet, well, the unexplained. Our fascination with what might lie beyond.
And room 502, with that nurse's story, the tragedy, the different versions, it kind of encapsulates that whole intersection, doesn't it?
It really does. The image of her potentially stuck there. It's a potent focal point for all the building's sorrow.
In the caretaker's experiences, years later, that suggests it's not just stories feeding imagination. There's a persistence there.
Something ongoing, perhaps. It makes the claims harder to dismiss entirely. It's undeniably compelling.
So ultimately, Waverly Hills feels like a symbol, a really complex one. It's about suffering, definitely, and loss, but maybe also about resilience. People fought hard there.
True. Immense suffering, but also immense struggle for survival. It's a place where history feels incredibly tangible, imprinted on the building, and where many believe something else also resides, something palpable.
It really makes you think.
It does.
Yeah.
So maybe the final thought to leave folks with is this. In places where human experience has been so intense, so much life and death, hope and despair, all concentrated, do those echoes just fade away completely?
Or can they linger? Somehow stay woven into the fabric of the place, waiting.
Waiting to be felt, maybe. In ways we don't quite understand yet. It's a fascinating question to ponder, especially after looking at somewhere like Waverly Hills.